I'm Morgan.
And I'm Megan,
Twins and hosts of M&M Chat.
a monthly podcast that brings together our many commonalities, motherhood, from life, fitness, chasing our passions, and Go Chat.
It is our goal to create a show that is positive, real, and fun. Now let's dive into this month's episode. So today's episode is called PD Faves, and PD stands for Personal Development. So, Megan, why do we think personal growth is important, and why and when did we kind of begin diving into personal growth?
Yeah, well, I personally think that it's important because it's how we continue to grow. And Morgan and I are both into the education profession. We find teaching as a passion, and so our goal is to be lifelong learners. And even if it's not with your job, or even if it's not something that you have to do like an assignment, I still think it's important for us to take the initiation to figure out what we want to grow in and what areas we want to keep improving on and developing. So that's personally why I find it fascinating and also find it valuable.
I would have to agree. I feel like when you focus on growing and learning and being a long life learner, so always looking to learn from other people and to gain wisdom and experience from other teachers and to try something that you've never done before. One, it keeps life interesting and you're always challenging yourself. But two, there's so much to learn around us, and there's different ways that people do things that might end up working really well for you. So I feel like it's a great way to explore, especially when there's areas that you might want to improve on, or in areas that you want to focus on growing and learning, and like being a mom or being a wife, or how can you better support your family. And so I feel like there's all these different opportunities out there that we have at our fingertips, like nothing else in all of society and all of our generations. There's never been a better time to bring out your phone or your computer for good and to learn from it.
And don't you also just find it entertaining, especially because it's our passions, like it's things that you enjoy, or it's areas that you are feeling that maybe you want to grow in. It's also entertaining because it keeps you thinking, and it keeps you while you're on your drive home, like it keeps you entertained while you're moving, while you're driving.
That's kind of funny that you say that because Dad likes to listen to the AM radio, and growing up I used to say, Dad, like, can we turn it to 98.1 or 96.5? Like, I want to listen to country music. I want to sing. I want to have that playing in the background. I don't want to listen to people talking, and I don't want to listen to the AM station. And Dad's like, well, I've really gotten into listening to the conversations of talk show hosts of back and forth about agriculture or things like that. And now, honestly, on my way home, it's not the AM station, but I am listening to podcasts, or I am listening to different personal growth or conversations about marriage or family or even entertainment things.
Yeah.
There's we're going to list some of our faves today. And there's some that are just funny. And so, yes, I still love to crank up the music, especially on Friday, but on a good Tuesday afternoon on my way home, I'd rather, I think, tone up some personal development and listen to a podcast.
So now that we've talked about why we think it's important, when did you start doing a little bit of your own personal growth?
I would say in college is when you always are continuing to read and learn, and you have to kind of step out of your comfort zone. So I would say college was kind of when I started it personally. It's when I first started my blog. My first blog was Picking Wildflowers, and kind of began to envision, and I really struggled with knowing what I wanted to do. So looking into different things, looking into the floral industry, looking into marketing, kind of trying to find what I was interested in is kind of where I think it began. But then I would say in the last couple of years, I've really started to make it a part of my daily routine. So I have a list of podcasts on my phone that I like to subscribe to that will pop up notifications. We're going to share with you some different books.
We got a stack here.
I love to read books, so I like to, in our Bible study, our community group, we go through different books and on different topics. And so I feel like in the last couple of years is really when I really started making it intentional in my daily routine. What about you?
Yeah, I would say the same for me too. I feel like learning is just something that I enjoy. And so when I wasn't at Iowa State anymore, I was looking for something that kept me thinking, kept me growing, and that's when I started reading some of my own books that I found, or I would listen to some podcasts that seemed interesting, or what I was going through at the time. Like when I was engaged, I would listen to some marriage podcasts. And actually, I was kind of against podcasts at first. I thought they were just kind of like, oh boy, there's another podcast. But my sister, Morgan, had a long drive to work, a long commute, and so she started listening to podcasts. You actually started listening to Rachel Hollis as one of your first ones, and she would always talk about like, oh, on this podcast, and I just kind of chuckle and be like, oh, here we go again, she's talking about a podcast. And then I just dived into it also, and since I started having a 30-minute commute, and I actually started diving into it more when I started my Beachbody coaching side hustle. And so I started listening to some like business podcasts, and that's when I really started diving more into it. And then I was like, okay, well, if it works for business, then it also works for marriage or family or faith, or just for entertainment. So I started doing that too. And also I got kind of tired of listening to music on my commute, so it was just something different, and it was fun.
Okay, so what does personal growth look like? It can look different for everyone, but these are some of the ways that we include personal growth into our daily routine. We like to read books, which we're going to talk about some of our faves. Like I mentioned, we both listen to podcasts on our commute, so that's really easy. You can subscribe to them to your phone and listen to them through your vehicle. Gratitude and affirmations in the morning, prayer time, devotional time, just 15 minutes of silence of your own thoughts is really important, and a way to get in touch with what you want. And they say like saying it out loud or journaling it. Like I've really noticed in the last few years of writing down Tyler and I's dreams and goals is how you see it to fruition, because you think about it every day versus just another day goes by and you did nothing to move towards that goal. So just having it on your mind every day helps. Going to conferences, which now being moms, it's a little bit harder to go to conferences, but when we were in our early 20s and in college, we went to a lot of different conferences that were related to our professions.
Or as for all my teacher friends, going to conferences in the summer is a great opportunity. Morgan does an ag conference every year, and I've done the online version because of COVID, so I did that a couple years ago, and then last year I had things going on so I couldn't, but I'm really excited because this year I am going to attend, and it's for teachers, and it's just for helping teachers use agriculture into the science, or into any of the lessons actually, and not just science. And so teachers, conferences in the summer is a perfect time for personal growth.
And can you also talk about the next one is being a part of a community? If there's an area you want to grow in, having the accountability really helps. Do you want to mention that a little bit?
So there's a variety of communities that you might be involved in. One could be your work community, and so you're always trying to learn and grow at work. Maybe you get new things that you have to get training on, so that's growth. But then there's also communities that you can be a part of that you take the initiation to be a part of. For example, maybe it's a church community group, and having that accountability to help you grow in faith. Maybe it's a fitness group, and it can be an in-person fitness group or an online community, and that helps you work towards your health goals and just growing and continuing to get stronger or continuing to improve on your health. Maybe it's the community that you make with your friends, and you share your visions and your goals with your friends, and they help keep you accountable. Maybe it's just sharing your things with your family and your spouse. Just having that community where you're talking about things that you want to grow in, that's going to help you continue moving forward in what your goals and visions are versus just staying stagnant.
Excellent, yes. And I mentioned a little bit with the gratitude and affirmations, goal setting, but also I think creating a vision board every year. I usually like to do this in January, creating a vision board that is my overall dream for that year. So that includes family dreams, family goals, being a mom, like what I hope to grow in. Like right now, we're going to mention some books, but right now I'm really focusing on how can I discipline in a godly gospel way, and I'm trying to research a little bit of how to go about that. And so the whole vision board kind of idea is to put on there what you hope that year looks like and how you can start to live that out. And by seeing it and having it in a place that will remind you, like maybe you want to save to go on a vacation. You could put a picture of where you would like to go on there. So it can be a lot of different things.
Yeah. Morgan, do you want to start talking about some of our favorite books? Mom Life. Andrew's in the swing, so I'm going to go turn the music back on, but I'll be back.
Sounds good. So some of our favorites, so we're first going to talk about our favorite books. So like we mentioned, so there's kind of 5. We recommend having 5 pillars of growth or of passions or interests that you focus on. So like for me, my 5 pillars are being a mom and a wife, so family, religion and being a Christian and growing in my faith, my flowers and the farm in general, growing our farm business with Tyler. And my other one would be work and being an agriculture advocate. So that would be my 4th one. And then my 5th one is fitness. So those are my 5 pillars. So we recommend having 5 pillars that you focus on, so that way you're not overwhelmed and you're not looking for what's the best recipe for salsa when really you like to cook and stuff, but that's not your main focus. Like I love to cook and I love to try new recipes, but that's not the one main focus that I'm going to be researching on. So if that is something that you're interested in, that could definitely be one of your 5 pillars, is trying new recipes, something like that. Trying to be creative in the kitchen. But you choose your 5 pillars that you want to focus on, so that way it's not as overwhelming. So the first one for faith and Christianity, we read quite a few books in our community group, and so these are some of the ones that we've read recently.
So this one is Unshakable Hope, and it's Promises of God, but it's by Max Lucado. I think that's how you say his last name. But this one is really good if you just want to grow in your faith and learn more about hope and what God's promises are for us, and things that you would read in the Bible too is emphasized in here, but through like somebody's own experience and learning too, so it helps explain some of the things that you would find in the Bible. But we also have a book that we are currently reading in community group called Bless, and what's kind of cool is our church has actually taken this concept and created sermons on it as well. But it's 5 everyday ways to love your neighbor. So it's not only just like how are we blessed, but it's how can we bless other people. And the each letter stands for something. So B is begin with prayer. L is listen. E is eat. So inviting people to eat with you. S is serve. And what's the last S?
The last one is
story. So tell your story to people. So understanding how God impacts your life and how you can share it with other people. So we have about one more section left of this book, but definitely recommend those 2 for helping to grow in your faith. Those are 2 of our favorites.
This one I have not read yet, but I hope to read this one. Megan just was telling me about it. So the energy bus is about looking at being positive and how your energy affects those around you, and how positivity is just as contagious as negativity. So this one I'm really curious about, and also how that how your energy fulfills your day. So I'm kind of looking forward to reading this one. So I'm going to borrow this one from Megan. So then this one would be more under like looking at personal growth, either like your energy within your work day or your energy with your family, and kind of finding your own passion. So then we kind of are diving into, so remember those 5 pillars. The next one is like your side hustle or your kind of, this one is more with our Beachbody and our flowers. Megan and I like to read a lot of business books and being kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. So this one is called The Purpose Driven Life. And this one right here is called Boss Up, and both of these are really good ones. Megan and I have both read this one, and Megan's read this one. The Boss Up one talks about looking for your passions and how can you start to turn that kind of into a business, or how can you start to kind of level up a little bit. So this one was definitely in more of the season of hustle. So lately I've been more in the season of calm and wanting to be grounded and not so hurried all the time. But this one was in my season of wanting to hustle before being a mom.
And this one also, it says, this ain't your mama's business book. So it's looking at things a little bit differently, but also looking at it on how can you have something that you're passionate about, like a side business, so maybe it is your full-time business, but also being a mom. So integrating that into your life.
And I was just thinking about, like, where my mom and dad oftentimes ask us, like, where does this come from? Like, where does your drive to do personal growth and things come from? But honestly, I think it comes from them. Both of our parents are, like, natural entrepreneurs. Like, Dad has always tried to continue to grow the firm even after my grandpa retired. And with my mom, she actually had a hair salon when we were young called Twin Expressions. And then she also owned a hair salon in different nursing homes and for older residents after she closed her one in Tiffin. So our parents have always kind of had that entrepreneurship spirit too, and trying new things.
And liking to create their own schedule or create things themselves and form it how they want to.
Yes. So the next one is life and family and marriage.
So we have a variety of family books that we have really enjoyed. One of my all-time favorites is the 5 Love Languages. This was just really interesting because it really explained a lot of how relationships work and what areas, like, where we find love and where our spouses, like, feel love. And so then we can try to communicate that to each other. We can show each other in that way of really showing them the way that they want to be loved. And so this one is so good. I highly recommend it. And I actually wouldn't mind reading it again just because it's that good.
Yes, I really love that one too. Actually, our friend Rachel, they were just talking about this. We might have to let her borrow it because they just were looking at the 5 love languages and she doesn't have the book. So Rachel, if you're watching this, you can borrow this book if you want to. The next one is vertical marriage. So looking at it, our relationships in God's eyes should go God, our marriage, and then family. And so it should be in that vertical order of, like, keeping things in sync and being in the kind of like the state of flow where we're looking up towards God for our joy and our wisdom and our guidance. And then marriage, leaning on our spouse in that relationship, and then those two things will help us be the best parents that we can be.
I love that part of it because it really helps to put things into priority. So God should be the first priority, and then your marriage, and then as a couple with your kids. And so I think that's just really important to remember. I love that one too.
I think so too. This next one, Newborn 101. Megan and I have both recently read this one. And so we mentioned different seasons. So depending on the season of parenting, so newborn, we read this book. Recently, when Dean was about 6 months old, I read a book on baby-led weaning. It was kind of an ebook that I read. Now we're recently looking into, Megan's not as much into this stage yet, but I'm more looking into like behavior and discipline in a godly way.
So Morgan's been talking a lot about disciplining Dean and how she can do it in a godly way and still, like, have the gospel shine through. And so I was kind of joking, and Andrew got told no for the first time because he was taking a bath and I was scrubbing his head and he kept arching his back. And he would kind of slip into the little baby tub. And so since I didn't want him to go underneath the water, I would have to hold him up and I'd be like, Andrew, no, quit arching your back. And so he did it about 5 times, and I'm like, man, here's the way it starts. Will you being on me? So we have little Andrew joining us today.
And so those are some of our favorite books. There's a lot more that if you are interested in, we can share, and you can ask us about other books we've read.
And let us know too what books
you
like and where you want to continue to grow, and because we are always looking for new books and just different recommendations as well.
Yes, my cousin Laura just told us that she bought Don't Make Me Count to 3 by Ginger Hubbard, and I want to get that one because that one is about looking at discipline and being respectful in that way and things like that. So the real life podcast, you guys, unedited. So next we have our favorite podcast. So I like to listen to a lot of podcasts that are both educational and fun. So some of our favorite ones for family are Risen Motherhood, Couple Things with Sean and Andrew, which Sean is the Olympian that was in for gymnastics. So that one's a really fun one. And then her husband was in the NFL.
Did you listen to the last episode? They are starting to do more family-based ones too.
Yes, I saw that. There's also One Extraordinary Marriage, and there's Gore's Night for Faith, and then there's The Messy Table that's also for Faith. For farm, we really like the Midwest Farm Wives, and there's a couple other farm ones that I like too that are more on like soil and cover crops and things like that I'll listen to every once in a while. There's health, we like Trust and Believe with Sean T, Model Health Show. And then for fun, we really enjoy Skinny Confidential, Him and Her. You Can Sip With Us. You Can Sip With Us does have some like language and things like that, so just be careful with that one. And Him and Her. You definitely don't want to listen to those with kids in the car, so just full warning on those.
But they're super entertaining.
There's one that I like to listen to called Hi, My Name is Mom, and they have one episode a month that's called Why We Whine, and they just have 10 minutes to have a gab fest about different things that why they whine. For work, there's a couple of classroom ones that Megan likes to listen to, and then there's one that I really like to listen to that's called Gold Digger, and it's all about entrepreneurship, but she's starting to slowly transition to motherhood and weaving your business and family life together.
Yeah. With the teaching ones, there's one called Classroom Commute that's really good, and Not So Wimpy Teacher. And actually I just joined a Facebook group that's Not So Wimpy 4th grade teacher to help get some ideas. So even joining Facebook groups for things that you're interested in too will give you some new ideas.
So we mentioned that your PD interests might change with your season. So to get started, the easiest way to get started is just focus on your 5 pillars. So first, find your 5 pillars, which is looking at your passions, your interests, what are your main priorities. And then start by subscribing to a podcast, or there's blogs. I know we don't hear as much about blogs anymore, but blogs is kind of where it all started for personal growth and development. So blogs are a great place to go to. And then, check out some of these recommended books, or if you have other interests, if you like gardening, or if you like fitness, there's a lot of books out there on those topics as well. So look at your interests and find what you're passionate about, and that's where you begin.
Yeah. That's exactly, I think you said that the way I would have said it, Morgan. It's good to just kind of keep your mind open and just keep looking things and looking into things.
So,
you know what I mean.
Like and subscribe if you found this helpful. Please share with your friends. That's the best way to get the word of mouth of our podcast out in the hands of all of you. So, stay tuned for next episode. Actually, our next one though is going to be one I'm like super excited about.
Me too.
So we are partnering with the Farm Wife Drinks, and we are going to try a few of her recipes. And so the next one we have is just going to be fun. So just join us for conversation. Maybe we should come up with like a list of topics that are just fun that we want to talk about. And we'll try some different recipes, and it'll just be a fun episode.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one.
I know, so July is where it's at. We'll see you then.
Say bye!
Say bye!